Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am Malinga Sise of Herb and Harvest Organic Farm. For all of you who have subscribed to my YouTube channel, I am so grateful. And for those who are still new, please kindly subscribe to the YouTube channel. Today I'm super excited because I want us to address a very serious issue in poultry farming, and that is about feeding these birds. We are going to look at commercial feeds versus the fermented feeds. All of us, including myself, we have been complaining about these commercial feeds, that it is very expensive. It is making us get less profits. So today I want us to address that issue, whether we can only use the fermented feeds and these birds lay well, or we can use both the fermented feeds and the commercial feeds, or it is not possible to use only the fermented feeds. Okay, we really need whether we really need this commercial feed. So that is what I want us to discuss about. But for those who have really used only the fermented feeds, kindly you can share in the comment section how it has been working for you, because personally I've not used fermented, like only fermented feeds before. I've always fermented this matoke or plantain stems, like last time I showed you, and gave to the birds. But I've not only given them these fermented feeds. I always give them this commercial feeds mainly. So the fermented feeds is always just to ferment, to supplement on their feeding. But for those who have really given only the fermented feeds from day one up to the last day of this bird's life, please let us know in the comment section. Now, I want us to know, what are these fermented feeds? Because someone might be there asking, what are these fermented feeds and the commercial feeds that Sisa is talking about? For someone who is still new in this project, our fermented feeds are regularly these poultry feeds that have been soaked and allowed to ferment using some beneficial bacteria and yeast. It is normally from grains, from bran, and from kitchen scrap. Okay, and the process always improves the feed's digestibility, nutrients absorption, and the gut health for this chicken. I have a list of fermented feeds that you can give to the birds, or a list of things that you can ferment and give to your birds. And this includes the fermented maize bran, the fermented wheat bran, we have the fermented rice bran, we have fermented fish meal, we have the fermented soybean meal, we have the fermented kitchen scraps, we have the fermented brewer's grains, we have the fermented cassava peels, we have the fermented potato veins, and we also have the fermented duckweed or azolla. Okay, so those are some of the fermented feeds that you can give to your birds. Someone may ask, what are the commercial feeds? Now, commercial feeds in poultry are scientifically formulated feeds that provide a balanced diet for this chicken. They are manufactured normally by feed companies using a mix of grains, protein source, vitamins, minerals, and additives to support growth, egg production, and the overall health for our birds. And some of the examples of these commercial feeds include the starter feeds, which include the starter pellets that I've always talked about. We have the growers feeds, which also it also has the growers pellets, which also have the layers feeds or the layers mash. Then we also have the broiler feeds, the starters, the growers, and the finisher. All those are called the commercial feeds. Now, I want us to look at some of the differences between these commercial feeds and the fermented feeds before I give my own opinion about this fermented feeds versus the commercial feeds. But I know most farms, almost all, like 90% of farms around the world uses these commercial feeds. Personally, I use the commercial feeds. I have not yet given these birds only the fermented feeds from day one, honestly. My main feeds are the commercial feeds, and then the fermented feeds is always just to supplement. Now, what are some of the differences between the commercial feeds and the fermented feeds? If you come to the processing, you'll find that the fermented feeds is always through natural fermentation by soaking the grains and the kitchen scraps. But with the commercial feeds, it is always industrially formulated and processed. Now, if you come to the nutrient control, you'll find that with the fermented feeds, nutrient content varies depending on the ingredients that you are using. But for the commercial feeds, you'll find that it is precisely formulated for layers if it is meant for layers, for broilers if it is meant for broilers, for chicks if it is meant for chicks. Now, if you come to the digestibility, you'll find that with the fermented feeds, it is easy to digest and improves on the gut health. And that is the truth. But if you come to the commercial feeds, you find that the digestibility, it is standard. Okay? So if you come to the cost, with the fermented feeds, you'll find that it is cheaper. It reduces the feed cost. But with our commercial feeds, it is more expensive. We've all been complaining how it is expensive. In fact, some of you started this project and ended up not making profits because of this commercial feeds. Now, if we look at the shelf life, you will find that with the fermented feeds, it has shorter lifespan. Like you must use it within few days. If you ferment it and time for using it, you must use it within the few days, because if you leave it for long, it can also end up having a bad smell, or it can end up rotting. But with the commercial feeds, it has a longer lifespan because it is dry and you can package it. But with the fermented feeds, it is always so moist and you can't even package it. Now, if you come to the impact on the egg production, you realize that the fermented feeds can improve egg taste and quality, but needs proper balance. So if you do not balance it well, you will end up not getting the eggs that you're supposed to get. All those birds will end up not laying, okay, if you don't balance the nutrient in it very, very well. But with the commercial feeds, it ensures steady production with the balanced nutrients. We've always discussed how you can mix these chicken feeds, the layer smash, the grower smash. You will find that all the nutrients should be equally balanced. It's always balanced. So for it, the production is always steady. Now, if you come to the moisture content in these feeds, for the fermented feed, you'll find that it has high moisture content and it reduces a water intake. Okay, the bird will not drink a lot of water because it itself has a lot of moisture. But with the commercial feeds, it is normally dry and requires more water consumption. So you must always give the birds enough drinking water when you're using these commercial feeds. Now, if you come to the additives that it has, you will find that with the fermented feeds, it has no artificial additives or preservatives that is added. But for the commercial feeds, it may contain some synthetic vitamins, minerals, and other preservatives. So those are some of the differences between the fermented feeds and the commercial feeds. This issue of the feeds, I want to leave it into your hands. I will not dictate that use the commercial feeds or use the fermented feeds. But I personally, as I told you before, I use mostly this commercial feeds. But one thing that I want us to know is that when you're going to use these fermented feeds, first of all, know how to mix the ingredients very, very well. You must know it. Okay? You must know how to mix the ingredients very, very well, because it is not a very popular chicken feed that most farmers use. Most farmers prefer using the commercial feeds. Okay? And then you should also introduce it to these birds gradually. Now, like for the birds that have been using the commercial feeds, you will not just introduce to them the fermented feeds at once. Okay, you must introduce it gradually so that it does not stress these birds. And then also another thing, as you give them these fermented feeds, make sure you keep on observing their egg production and the egg shells. If you realize the egg shells are not strong, endeavor to add calcium. And then if you're going to use both the commercial feeds and the fermented feeds, give the commercial feeds in the morning, and then the fermented feeds in the afternoon. That is how I want you to give these birds these feeds. But for someone who has decided to use the commercial feeds, now like me, I'm using the commercial feeds. If you're giving these fermented feeds, you just give them as a supplement. Someone is going to ask me, if I'm going to use it as a supplement, am I going to reduce on the amount of the commercial feeds and give them the fermented feeds? I may say yes, I may say no. The yes comes in a situation where you know how to mix those fermented feeds very well and you ferment it very, very well. And you can cut on the amount of the commercial feeds. Now, this is how you're going to adjust the feed quantities, okay? If you have the fermented feeds, let's say 30 to 40% of the diet, you will reduce the commercial feeds to about 80 to 90 grams. That is if you're giving to these layers. You know these layers, every day at least each bird should consume 120 grams. So if you're sure of your fermented feeds that you fermented it well with all the balanced nutrients, if you have 30 to 40% of the fermented feeds, okay, you're going to reduce 80, you will give these birds 80 to 90 grams of the commercial feeds per bird per day. And then if the fermented feeds is 50% of the diet, okay, you will reduce the commercial feeds to about 60 to 70 grams per bird per day. And then if the fermented feed is 70% or more, you may need only 30 to 40 grams of the commercial feeds per day per bird. But ensure that the fermented feed has enough protein, has enough calcium, and all the essential nutrients that you're supposed to give to these birds. That is why I said I'm not going to dictate that we use the fermented feeds or use the commercial feeds. It is upon you, the farmer. Because most of you, your birds are not laying because you're not giving them the right amount of feeds. You're not giving them feeds with enough nutrients. And then also I want us to ensure that the fermented feeds always include protein source like the soybean meal, the fish meal or azola. And then also you must always monitor the egg production. I said this before. If you notice the eggs are becoming very small or they're reducing in size, okay, or the eggshells are very, very soft, make sure you increase on the commercial feeds or supplement with the calcium. Because I've realized that most of us are complaining about these commercial feeds. So some of you may want to start fermenting your chicken feeds. But all I can tell you is that I have used these commercial feeds. And if you use it well, honestly, your birds can perform very well. Because the current birds, I give them fully the commercial feeds and I supplement with the fermented feeds, but I make sure that I give these birds the right amount of the commercial feeds. So if you do the right thing, your birds will still lay well. And much as we are complaining that the profits is little, but still, if you do the right thing and the birds lay well, honestly, you will get good profits. That is my conclusion about the fermented feeds and the commercial feeds. But for those who have used fermented feeds, as I said in the beginning, and it has worked perfectly well for you, share it with us in the comment section and tell us how you do it so that we can also copy from you. So I would say that is all I can say about this chicken feeds. If you know how to ferment the feeds very well with all the nutrients, please go for it. But if you know you're an amateur and you still cannot do the fermentation well, you do not know how to add the required nutrients and minerals and vitamins, please go for the commercial feeds and just do the right thing. Your birds are going to lay very well. You know, the challenge with these commercial feeds that I've seen is that some of the things you cannot easily get them. But with the commercial feeds, they are already available in the feed stores. You can just go and pick. But with the fermented feeds, you'll have to go and look for those things, come and break them down or pound them, ferment them. So you realize to ferment the feeds for like 1,000 birds will become very tricky for you, unless if you plan very, very well. I'm not against it, but I'm just telling you what I am seeing, okay? So that is all I have about these fermented feeds and the commercial feeds. Now let us go inside our chicken farm and give them the feeds. Then we do a few things and we call it a day. See you right inside the farm. Guys, it is threatening to rain. That's why there's a lot of noise, eh? Currently, I'm giving the birds plain water. Can see? I'm giving them plain water. Most of you are asking me whether I give these birds herbal remedies every day. For the greens, you can give every day, but for the herbs, some days you can give them plain water. Like today, you see, I'm giving plain water. Guys, I really enjoy collecting eggs. Actually, it is part of my exercise. This is double yolk, guys. This one is double yolk. This also double yolk.
guys, we are soon finishing. Let me finish. I will get back to you.
So for today, that is all I had for you. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for always coming back. Thank you so much for loving me. But if you're still new, please consider subscribing to the YouTube channel. Click on the notification bell so that you never miss out any upload. Share this video, comment in the comment section down below, and I'll be so grateful. Don't forget to tell me which your country you're watching me from, and I'll be smiling. See you next time. I love you all. Bye bye.